Hi, dear students. Welcome back after a great 1 week semester break. I hope all of you had good break. Understand most of you were busy or could still be busy with your assignments and your presentation. But bear it, it's just one more month for us to complete this semester successfully. Sometimes it could be overwhelming to you, so if you feel it's overwhelming, never mind, stop for a while, take rest, and then you start back. Do not strain yourself too much, yeah? Okay, so if you feel you need the rest, just go for it. Okay, so guys, let's just get started with the second part of our semester. We have done with 7 to 8 weeks of our April semester. So this week we are going to go into our new chapter, brand new chapter, that would be chapter 6. For your information, altogether we will go through about 9 chapters in this subject, and this week we will complete this week with the hope we will complete our chapter 6. Therefore left 3 more chapters for us to complete. Okay, so a big thanks to all of you for being so cooperative. Okay, so let's just get started, and before I start, I would like to just recall a little bit or a quick run through on what we learned before the semester break. Okay, so before the semester break we have done with all our 5 chapters, and the last chapter we looked at prospecting and sales call planning, which means we looked at the sources of prospect. We looked at the planning the sales call, about like 7 steps, and then we looked at call reluctance, what are the causes and how you can overcome that. So with that, we are going to continue our chapter 6, that's going to be on communicating the sales message. So this is going to be on chapter 6. Some of you might actually think, Miss, we have already learned this topic, if I'm not mistaken. Actually, no. The topic that we learned before is communicating value in sales message, whereas this particular topic is on communicating the sales message. So there is no value in between. So communicating sales message means how do you want to send your marketing messages, the messages about your product, about your services, to your customers directly. Okay, now when I give you an assignment, okay, let's take this situation. When I give you an assignment, I ask you to do a written report. Thereafter, what are the tool, or what is this one tool that you will use to communicate whatever that you put on your report that you use to communicate with me? Okay, some of you might have guessed it correctly, or some of you might still be blur a little bit. Hello, wake up after your midterm break. Okay, so one of the tool that you use to transfer whatever information that you put on your written report into verbal is through your presentation. So this is what we are going to learn today, and today we are going to look at communicating the sales message, where we are going to look at the sales presentation. Okay, for some, presentation is a very exciting thing to do. For some, presentation, I'm so scared, I'm so nervous, I don't want to speak. Okay, so let's just break these obstacles and let us see, as a salesperson, what are the things that you might need when you want to deliver the sales message to your potential customers. Okay, let's just get started. So sales presentation, as all of y'all are well aware about presentation. Okay, so presentation is one of the great way that you can use in order to communicate about your product, about your services, about the information of your company to your potential customers. So what are the characteristics of a great sales presentation? Which means when you want to deliver a presentation, how can you make it as a great presentation? First of all, you have to explain the value proposition. Value proposition, another name for value proposition is competitive advantage. It means in value proposition and the sales presentation, you will need to identify your customers' needs. Okay, so under the value proposition, you need to identify your customers' needs and you need to create the solution for your customers using your company's products or services. So that is how you can create that competitive advantage, or another name, value proposition for your company. So before that, you have to know what is your customer's problem and you have to use your company's product or services to help your customers to solve that particular problem. Okay, and when it comes to value proposition, salesperson can use different tools to communicate the value proposition. That can be in terms of non-verbal communication, through your PowerPoint presentation, or through your business proposal. So all these will support the information of the company that you intend to share to your customers or potential customers. And on top of that, all this will help, okay, all the tools that you are using to create that value proposition will help in building company's brand through the social interaction you're building with your customer. Okay, so when you build a social interaction, that would be the different thing that you're doing for your customer. Okay, so that is the first characteristic of great sales presentation, which is explains the value proposition. Remember, the keyword for value proposition is the difference, competitive advantage. Okay, the next, asserts the advantages and benefits of the product. Normally, this is what salesperson will do when they start to present about the product, when they start to share about the product or services to the customer, a potential customer. They will of course talk about the advantages and benefits of their company's product. You see, that is the main point, the focal point of any presentation, right or not? Of course, you don't want to do a presentation where you're talking about your competitor's product or something else, right or not? Okay, so next, enhance the customer's knowledge of the company product and services. Enhance means to, yes, increase, to how else? Enhance means to increase, to improve. Okay, the customer's knowledge about your company. You see, relate to the second one. The second one, when you give the customer or the potential customer the advantages and benefits of your company's product, this will actually help the customer to have more knowledge about your company's product and services and what exactly your company is doing. Okay, and the last characteristic of a great sales presentation is creates a memorable experience for the customer. You see, when we indulge ourselves in any businesses, especially marketing businesses for your company or for your business, you have to do a presentation which will stick in your customer's mind. Sorry, even after they walk out of the room, they can still relate your presentation, or maybe your presentation can still stick to your customer's mind. So how can you create a memorable experience? Okay, you can create a memorable experience through the effectiveness of your sales presentation, where you could include, okay, where you could include those excellent advantages and benefits of your product, or you can include any previous experiences of customers about your product, or you can include some good points in your sales presentation, make it straightforward and clear for the customers to understand. So all this can create memorable experience. Make sure your presentation is fun. If you can include some humors, you can include some activities like a workshop, all this will create memorable experience of the event for the customer, rather than just a flat monotonous sales presentation. Monotonous means like the same flat voice. Okay, so these are some of the characteristics of sales, a great sales presentation. Okay guys, I hope you understand 4 characteristics. Okay guys, there will be some slides where I will skip in this chapter. Okay, I will only touch those is important for you. Okay, so this one is the example of how you can enhance your customers knowledge, so you can just go through this on your own. This is by the Pampers brand. Okay, getting ready for the sales presentation is like running on a marathon. Okay, so how are you going to get ready? First of all, you need to get the approach of sales presentation strategies. You see, when it comes to a presentation, there are few strategies that you can adapt to it. Okay, strategies, like some strategies you just memorize and you can just pick out, you can just vomit out whatever that you memorize. Okay, some strategies you use formula. Okay, there might be certain marketing formulas that you want to use to capture the attention of your customer. Some presentation you look for customer satisfaction, maybe by asking them questions, getting to know what are they exactly looking for. And the next strategy, the last strategy you can use is problem solving. Okay, so we are going to look at this one by one, and I'm just going to go through on what is this some kind of number ratio here. Okay, so memorize presentation. By the name itself, you know the presentation is by memorizing, which most of you will do, not all but most of you. Okay, where you memorize the points. Okay, and then you start to vomit out the points without realizing whether that particular point really helps customer or not. So when you go for memorized presentation strategy, your focal point, focal means the important, the center point would be on product. Okay, the ratio here, okay, you can see here talk listen ratio. So the talk is here 90%. Okay, the first column here is talk, which means the talk by the salesperson, whereas listen ratio, okay, all this both talk and listen ratio is by the salesperson. So when it comes to memorize strategy, the salesperson will talk 90%, whereas they will only listen 10% from their customers. So it means more talking will happen here and less listening from your customers will happen here. So what will happen when you adopt to such strategy? This is generally, okay, in any type of presentation, generally this is not viewed as a good strategy. Why? Because you are not using the understanding of your company's product and services, whereas you are fully memorizing what the products can do, the types of products, but you're not really understanding what exactly these products can do and how exactly the product can help the customers to solve their problem. Okay, which is actually an important aspect while you are leaving a critical information, or maybe when you memorize you might leave out a critical information or the most important information that your customers want to hear. Okay, so that's why memorize is not to say a very good strategy. As a salesperson, you must listen more than talk more, because when you talk more, students pula, customers will think that you are not really listening to what exactly their problems are. Okay, Next strategy is formula. Formula strategy is where you focus on your product. So you will have some kind of marketing formula that you will apply to your product, and when it comes to formula, you will do 70% of the talking and you will do 30% of the listening ratio. Okay. Next is needs satisfaction. So when it comes to needs satisfaction, this strategy is where you are looking to satisfy your customers' needs. So when you are looking to satisfy your customers' need, of course your central point would be, yes, your customers. Okay, so here the ratio would be 40% of you talking and 60% of you listening to what exactly your customers are expecting from you. So in such presentation, the first half is spent on asking. Okay, your talking is merely or maybe could be about asking questions to your customer, getting to know what your customers' real needs are, whereas that 60% is your listening skills towards your customer. So by doing this, you will be able to understand what is the customer's current problem, what is the customer's expectation, and how can you fulfill the customer's expectation using your company's product or services. Okay, but when it comes to needs satisfaction, limit your questions. Your questions for you to ask your customers is for you to know what exactly your customers trying to tell to you. So when you go for asking question, make sure you don't ask too many questions, because when you ask too many questions, your customers tend to doubt about your ability and knowledge. But when you ask very less question, also could be the same. Okay, so you need to get your questions at a very moderate level. Okay, so that is need satisfaction tips. And the last strategy here would be problem solving. So when it comes to problem solving, of course you will talk less and you will listen more. So your talk ratio here would be 30% and your listen ratio here will be 70%. And in general, this is viewed as the most difficult strategy. Why? Because it is a win-win situation. You know, win-win situation means both parties will have their benefits when they do this. So when it comes to problem solving strategies, okay, your customer is there because they have a problem that they are looking to find the solution for it, whereas you are there to sell your products and get your numbers. So problem solving is normally a two-way situation or a win-win situation for the customer and also for salesperson. Okay, so these are the sales presentation strategies, 4 strategies for you to know. Okay, next, this is a very important model for you to know. So when it comes to IDA model, okay, when you are into a sales presentation, when you are into this IDA model, this will be very useful for you. So IDA model, first of all, you create awareness in your customer with your presentation. So create awareness means where you create brand awareness with your product or services. So brand awareness, how you can create, it means like how your brand can help your customer, what are the standing of your brand in the market. So that's how you can create the awareness. Next is through the interest. So after you have created the awareness, you can actually create the interest in your customer. How you're going to create the interest in your customer? Okay, getting the interest in the benefits of your product. Okay, and sufficient interest to encourage the buyers to start to do some kind of research about your product, because when your potential customers are interested, when they show a little bit interest on your product, they will start to find or they will start to do some research about your product. Next, you already create the awareness, you already create the interest. Now you have to infuse or you have to actually get their desire to be evoked. It means they already have that interest, you already infuse the interest, so now you have to like fire up the interest. So to fire up the interest would be under the desire part. Okay, where when it comes to desire part, you have to touch on their emotional connection. Okay, where you have to show your brand personality. Okay, on where here in this part you have to show your brand personality to move your customers from liking to wanting it. Okay, by having this product, it can help me to solve the problem, it can show a luxury lifestyle, it can show a good lifestyle, for example. Okay, so that's how you create the desire. And lastly is where you move your customer to action. Action means you get your customers to buy your product. So you cannot just give your customer the benefit, the information of your product. At the same time, after you have given all this, after you have created the awareness, the interest and the desire in your customer, you have to close the deal. So in order to close the deal, you have to move the buyer to buy your product, to get into the action of buying your product. Okay, so these are the AIDA model, which is very important for you to know. Okay, got it guys? I hope you are okay, you are still following me. Okay, so you can just skip both of this. Okay, next let us see setting goals and objective. Okay, I'll just run through this. When you want to do your sales presentation, make sure you set your goals, you set your objectives. So educate your customer. Your goal is to educate your customer. Guys, goals means your aims, objective means your purpose. Don't get confused between these both. Okay, so you have to educate your customer. Don't put the sales, closing the sales as your top as your top goal. Your top goal is to educate the customer, because when you educate the customers, you don't need to worry about your numbers, about your sales numbers. Okay, when you educate your customers will find for you to get your product or services. And the next goal or next objective of your presentation should be getting the customer's attention, because you want the customers to listen to you, to give interest on your product. Build interest for the company's product. Nurture the customer's desire and conviction. Okay, you know the customer got interest already. Now you nurture, you slowly water the plant and get the customer to fire up to buy your product. So that's nurture the customer's desire. Okay, you know there's already fire, you build up the fire more. Obtain a customer's commitment to action. So this should be your last goal. Okay, you have to get their commitment to buy your product. Of course, you don't want to simply waste your energy doing all the presentation. At the end of the day, no sales unit. Of course, initially I said that getting your numbers should not be your priority. It should be your last goal. Your first priority is to educate your customer. So when you educate your customer, automatically customer will know about your product and they will start to think about purchasing your product. Okay, so that is setting goals. Okay guys, approach the customer. You can skip objective of the customer approach, you can skip. Okay, never underestimate the power of your first impression. This applicable to all the presentation, including your class presentation. Just get some insights from this. Of course, when you want to do presentation, you have to portray a confident but not overconfident manner. Okay, of course lah, you need to be clean, you need to have that neat appearance. Okay, dress up smartly, dress up pretty. Okay, I can see that, but I'm just missing this class presentation, as normally during class presentation all of you will dress up very well, smart, pretty. Okay, yeah, that part I'm just going to miss a little bit on that. Okay, never mind, we will see that on our online presentation, okay, so it is important to always smile. Of course, it's very important when it comes to presentation. Even when you don't see people's face, you still know whether they are smiling or not. Now during my presentation, please guess whether I'm smiling or not. Okay, Very important when you do presentation, because when you smile, even when your confidence level is low, but when you present with that cheerful face, this will put a mask on your face. Actually, if you ask me, people will think you're confident, you know about your product. So that is a way to cover lah. Okay, try to use your prospect's name when conversing. Okay, it means like try to use, hey John, hi John, this is what you asked for. So try to use their name, because when you use your customer's name, the customers will have the perception, oh okay, you remember my name. Okay, it means you are giving me the attention. So these are some of it that you can just go through. Yes, first impression matters. Okay, this one I can just go through lah. Ways to start the approach of the sales presentation. Some ways how you can start to approach of sales presentation. Probably you can just skip this. You want to go through, you can go through. Okay, this is another important part that you should know. Okay, the sales presentation begins. So how can you start your sales presentation? First of all, identify your customer's need. That's why the memorized strategy is not an ideal strategy when it comes to sales presentation, because you have to ask questions to your customers. By asking questions only, you will know what is your customer's need. Then only you can identify. You see, questions. When you ask question, you have to actively listen to your customers. And this is another approach that you can use, spin approach. Spin approach means where you use situation questions, problem questions, implication questions, need payoff questions. So you can choose which type of questions structure that you want to use. Okay, so after you know roughly what is your customer's expectation, why are they there, then you can apply your knowledge. Okay, your knowledge about your company's product, about your company's service. Okay, you can use your knowledge to help the customer find for the solution. Okay, so here you can use sell FAB. Sell FAB means FAB stands for feature, advantage and benefit. Of course, all this information about your product and services should be on your fingertips. The feature of your product, the advantage of your product, the benefit of your product. Then only you can just immediately say, okay, Mrs. Lim, you're having this problem. Okay, I have this one product where the features are so, the advantages are so, and the benefits are so. And I'm very sure this product can help you to solve the problem. So you see, you have to know this in order for you to apply that knowledge to your customers and satisfy your customers' needs. So how can you satisfy your customers' need? Give them the agreement. Don't leave them in the black room. Okay, give them the agreement. Through the agreement, they will know what are the requirements of your product. For example, maybe the guidelines and all that. Okay, minimize the change. Okay, let's say if the customer requests for certain color phone, the customer wants to buy a smartphone, certain color phone, but you don't have that particular color. Maybe customer requests for a white color phone, but you don't have that. So maybe you can just suggest a silver, for example. Okay, so but you don't change the specification. So minimize the change. So how can you minimize the change? Check first the availability of the phone. For example, the availability of the product. When can you deliver the product? When can customer use the product? So this can minimize the change. So when you minimize the change, customers would not change mind. But when your changes are so many, like you promise one delivery date, then suddenly you change the delivery date because you don't have any runner. You promise a color and then suddenly you change the color because you don't have the stock. Okay, you say you will give the agreement today, but you send out the agreement after 1 week. Okay, so all these will give the tendency for the customers to change their mind. Oh, your service is not good, I probably would rethink, I would probably consider. So all this, to minimize the change, you have to look into all these petty information, petty details, small details. Okay, guys? Okay, categories of questions. I mean, like what kind of questions that you can ask your customers during the presentation. You can just go through, restricted, unrestricted, data collection, and all that. Okay, I would not touch much on that. Okay, let's go into this. The sales presentation, building the relationship. Okay, guys, this is very, very important. No matter you are in which field, okay, in this digital era, in this digital world, building relationship with your customer is one of the competitive advantage, one of the value proposition for any business. Okay, so when it comes to your presentation, when you start to present about your product, when you start to share the information about your product, first of all, listening is very much important for a salesperson or for any business. When you listen to your customers is where you will know what is your customers wants and needs. If you're going to produce products just like that in the market without knowing what exactly your customers want, without listening to them, there will be tendency for you to fail in the market, or there would be tendency for you not to fulfill your target market's satisfaction. So listening is very important. Okay, most people listen actively only 25% of the time. So when you do a sales presentation, do not carry, let's say if it's a 1 hour presentation, do not carry with that 1 hour talking. Maybe you do your talking about 30 minutes, 20 minutes, then you answer question, you run a workshop, you show a video, for example. Okay, and then most people can hear up to 800 words per minute. Okay, you don't need to be so specific on this lah, as we don't count our word. Active listening, okay, requires commitment to focus. Okay, you have, as a speaker, you have to be very focused. When your customers utter you questions, throw some questions to you, listen carefully what exactly that they want to hear from you. Okay, so listening is very important, and some guidelines for active listening. Okay, listen to customers, speak patiently, do not interrupt. Though you already know that though you already know what you're going to answer the customer, do not interrupt. So listen patiently, let the customers to finish their point of view first. Okay, try to understand the customer's feelings. You should have empathy. Okay, you should understand the customer's feeling, okay, when they express. Okay, restate the person's feeling. Why you should restate? So that to confirm that you do not mistakenly hear them, or to confirm that what you heard from your customer is correct. So to restate the person's feeling, so that there might not be misconception or misleading information here. Allow time for discussion to continue without interruption. Okay, avoid direct questions or arguments about facts. Okay, so these are some of the active listening guidelines that you can go through. Repeat points that you want to know more about. So if customers say about certain problems, but you feel that you need more information, so that you can suggest them the accurate or the perfect product or service, then you can repeat your points. Okay, because you want to listen more from your customers. Okay, listen for what is not said, as I mentioned here, relate to this. Okay, be honest with your replies. So if, let's say, if your customer is asking for certain model, but that particular model is no longer available, be honest. Okay, don't just say that particular model is available, but then you give your customer another model. But what you can do, if the particular model is not available, you can recounter with another model which could be equally which could be equal to the current model that the customer is expecting. Okay, do not get emotionally involved, which means if the customer said bad about your product or services, do not get emotionally involved. Okay, you must always maintain your professionalism and be quiet. Be quiet means when the customer talk lah. Of course, during presentation you cannot be so quiet. Okay, so keys to great presentation. Okay, some of the key points for a great presentation. Okay, where you have to build credibility with your customer. It means you build a relationship with your customer. Okay, you have to be prepare for a successful demonstration. So before your presentation, practice. Normally you guys do that, I've seen that. Okay, before the presentation you'll be so anxious, you'll be so nervous, you start reading, start memorizing, start pitching to your friend. Yeah, that's very good. Okay, practice and practice. And you should have your checklist. Normally we don't do that, but for a, let's say if you want to present in front of strange audience, new audience, you should have your checklist so that you can plan for any unforeseen circumstances. Okay, how to be a better communicator? Of course, focus on listening, ask for clarification, be brief means be short and straightforward. Do not talk a lot. Okay, make sure you straight away go to the point. Don't repeat yourself, don't again and again repeat the same information to your customer. Okay, F for open door policy, which means be open, be transparent, don't get offended when your customer condemns you or your product. Okay, and use self-depreciating humor. Okay, humor lah. Okay, do some jokes and all that. Okay, so these are some of the non-verbal communication. Okay, non-verbal communication means verbal communication means is what we talk, we communicate. Non-verbal communication means those gestures. Okay, your body language is the non-verbal communication, like your face, the facial expression, whether you are happy, smiling, or angry, frustrated. Okay, arms and hands. Okay, how you communicate when we do presentation. Normally if you're very nervous, you don't really shake your hand, you don't really give your hand gestures. Like me, when I'm when I'm presenting to you now, though this is online presentation, you cannot see my face, but my hand is like everywhere. I start, my hands are just flying on the hair like that. Okay, so those are arms and hands, body language. So non-verbal communication is mainly about body language. Okay, whether you are, when your customers ask you questions, whether you are interested or not, sometimes can be known from your facial expression and your body language. Okay, territorial space, not very much important. When things go wrong, okay, during your presentation, when there are interruptions, okay, like assess to nature of interruption. Okay, consider as an opportunity to plan where to take the presentation from here. So when there are interruptions, you have to be ready for your breakouts. Okay, you have to know when there's interruption, what is the next that you can do. Okay, inappropriate environment, be prepared for the less ideal condition. When you are called to other people's place to do a presentation, to do a demonstration, if it's inappropriate environment, you just be prepared for that less ideal conditions. So make sure you're someone who can do presentation where and whenever you can. Okay, technology failure, always have a backup plan. Whenever, okay, you might already save your notes or save your presentation slides in a pen drive, for example, but at the same time you can just save it in a cloud, for example. So if your pen drive having some issues, not able to function, then you can just download from your cloud. Okay, so these are the things that you can go through. And sales manager's role, I'm not going to touch on this because we will have a separate chapter on training and mentoring and all that. Okay, so I'm not going to touch on this. Okay guys, that's it, done, chapter 6. Okay, this chapter, I'm sure this is pretty close to you, since all of you have experience of presentation experience. I'm very sure this chapter is pretty close to your mind and to your soul. So just incorporate whatever values that you went through during your presentation, then just incorporate into this chapter. That's it guys. If you have any further questions about this chapter, always ask me. Okay, That's it, guys. Stay safe and take care of yourself. Bye bye.